Hey everybody, Doug with Beer Money. We're in Sandwich, Illinois. It's Friday evening. It's a dead time of the week here. We pulled last night on Thursday evening, and we pulled twice tomorrow. We're here with the Christensen family, better known as the Pack Rats. And we have Doc, or Dennis Christensen, Doug, Kim, and Tegan, correct? And we watched them put their puzzle together last night when they loaded their equipment. As most are aware, they run 3 two-wheel drives, sometimes 4, and get a mod in their trailer, so they can only haul the 3 T-buckets at one time with the tractor. But it's interesting to watch, and that will be accompanying this interview. Doc, give us a little bit of your history in tractor pulling.
Well, back in 1967, which is a ways back, and I was a pretty young guy then, me and my neighbor, who turned out to be my brother-in-law, went to a county fair. I worked for these guys, neighbor kids, farmer, and went to a county fair, tractor pull, and there was a guy there that had an F-20, 1939 F-20 International, or Farmall, whatever you want to call it. He had a 6-cylinder in it, and I was impressed by it, that I could do maybe better. So the next year, after long story, I was a welder for Glencoe Manufacturing, building Glencoe field elevators. In the summertime, when it's 95 or so outside, it's like 120 inside. So we would put her in kick gas and do our welding quota by noon, and then the afternoon we put her in low crawl, and they didn't like that. They wanted me to just be putz all day and sweat my butt off. So after getting called in the office 3 times, I quit and went home and started building a mod tractor. And then it was, of course, that was pretty cheap. We didn't have to go to buy anything. We had everything in the shed, 40-20 duals, and put on the F-20 and put a V8 in it, an automatic, and length of the frame, and went to the pulls. In them days they had step-on sleds yet, and so then all of a sudden we had speed limits. I'm speeding things up compared to what, you know, we can talk here for hours, but through tractor pulling, we used to help the guy that was the president of Minnesota Tractor Pullers, Lyle Bishman, and, well, mostly because we got a pass to get in, free to pull. Our family is a family of 9 people and 5 boys, and we would go to the pulls, and all would ride along with him or our vehicles, and then we would help bolt up the 5th wheel pad onto the skid plate, and then that would best to be the weight transfer machine, but then the 5,000 pound super stock would pull with just a small garden tractor or something like that onto it for weight, and then the people would step on, and then the weight transfer machine would had a block of concrete that weighed about 2,000 pounds, and that would travel up the rails and help stop it. And it was a long deal, and then came along speed limits because people couldn't get on the weight pad.
Step on fast enough
because and it wasn't really fair. Some people would walk alongside and help their guy and pull him and step on the sled and cause controversies. And finally they made a weight transfer, and basically I got involved as the guy to maintain the weight transfer machine from 1971 to 1996, something like that, before we sold the thing.
So you ran the same sled that entire time?
Well, it got modified from a truck sled with a weight block going up the rails. Then we took the rails off the truck and made it into a pull type, and then we made it into a racing sled like today with lifting the back wheels off. So it progressed through the years, and being a tractor puller that was almost like an alcoholic. That's what I was classify myself. But only I had to watch out because I only had so much money, so you had to watch what you were doing, spending wise. Because I always say, tractor money is the answer. What is the question? So we had a lot of experience in weight transfers and maintenance on them, and organizationally has so much money. So when I was the president for like 15 years, and so you could only charge as much money as they had, and I should have charged what I should have charged normally, and then turned around and gave them what they couldn't afford as a donation. They thought I was charging too much money, so they put it out to somebody else for a while, and 1 month later I had it back. Too much work.
So when did the custom sled operators start in Minnesota?
Custom, like from 1971. I built my first tractor in 68, and then 1971 we went to twin small block Chevrolets, crank to crank. And
first one was a big block?
No. That was twin small blocks, and then by 1975, winter of 75, we went hunting for blowing alcohol setup for a big block Chevrolet, and then we went to a single motor tractor that pulled 5,000 pounds and 7,000 pounds. It was built on a cockshot 50 rear end and tube frame, and that lasted until 1978. Then we built a twin engine tractor, and we still had the single engine, and so there's many a story that we can talk about. I don't know if we should talk about some of the incidents going down the roads, or
there's always great stories when we get into this stuff. So.
We had an incident one time that we had a twin engine tractor that the timing chain broke, so we had to take the motor apart, and we had to pull like on Friday night, and then we had to go to Albert Lee, Minnesota from Glencoe. We worked all night to get that fixed and put different heads on it, because we had multiple motors in the shed, because we were self-employed mechanic. Employed by nobody. My dad, he lost his arm when he was 20, so I was his right hand. So when we were 5 years old, I was his right hand, and by the time I was 11, I had my own repair shop out on the farm. So we got to be a tractor puller. We sort of knew what we were doing, but you're still dumb as a rock. Anyway, we went and fixed this tractor motor back up, and got done about 8 o'clock, and we were supposed to be in Albert Lee, which is 2 hours away. We take off. We had a 2-ton truck with a tractor on the back of a 2-ton truck and flatbed, and we're going down 35W about 65-70 miles an hour, and passing this Army convoy. And this is 1971, 72-ish. There's this chick that had a miniskirt on it. She had a flat tire on the long side of the shoulder, and just so happened the Army convoy lead vehicle and myself was passing the Army convoy exactly as we were going by this girl with her rear end up in the air changing this tire. So I don't know if this guy in the Army lead vehicle was looking at that or if he was looking at the road, but sort of drifted into my lane, so we either gonna have to hit him or take the ditch. So we're doing 70 going down 35W, and then my brother and his buddy laying on the flatbed alongside the narrow front on this modified, and
So they're riding on the back of the
they're
flatbed,
sleeping on the back of the
going to a tractor.
because we worked all night. Anyway, I take the ditch at 70 and I kiss her up, take her down the ditch, and my brother is sleeping back there. He could see the grass coming up already as he woke up. And then we took her up onto the eastbound or the northbound lane and brought her back down the ditch and took her back out to the southbound without even slowing down. So we just happened to be in a spot where there was no obstructions, and so we never slowed down. And of course, these guys didn't go back to sleep no more ever on the back of the truck. Anyway, that's just one of the incidents in my life of tractor pulling. Lyle Bishman passed away in 1971. We were going home from a tractor pull in New Ulm, and he was pulling this weight transfer that he built behind a F-150 on a bumper hitch, and then he had 1,000 pounds of international weights in the back of the pickup for added weight to the stone bolt. We had bigger classes to put on anyway. I was following him, me and the wife, in there, and this is August 19th. And some guy was, I can give his name, but I won't do that, was drinking. He was drunk, and he was coming down the New Ulm Hill, and he was going way too fast, and he kissed off the guide rails on the southbound lane, and as we were coming up, and hit head on, and a friend of mine happened to be riding in that pickup with him to keep Lyle Bishman and somebody to talk to keep him awake, because his tractor pulls always get over about midnight. And he filled it. This was 1971 Ford, where the gas tank is behind the seat, and it was like when they hit head on, it was like a bomb going off. The whole valley blew up in flames, and by that time we were only going about 10 miles an hour up the hill, and I didn't want to pass him, so I just stayed behind, and he was in the middle lane instead of the semi lane, or whatever you want to call it, the slow lane. And I thought this guy was going to first just take it down the hill on the right hand side, but last minute he brings her right back, and watch the headlights go out, looking through the back of the pickup into my windshield, and of course it was like I said, a bomb going off, and I just threw it in low gear and turned the key off and bailed out of the truck and crawled up alongside that truck that was on fire. The flames were about 15 feet to 20 feet coming out every window of the truck, and opened the rider's door, and this young kid that was a friend of mine fell in my arms on fire, and of course my wife Sharon was there and threw a blanket on him and put the fire out. He wasn't burned too bad. He had to go to the hospital for 3 weeks, but it was his arms and legs. But this Lyle Bishman, he was in their seatbelts on. Apparently this friend of mine didn't put the seatbelt on, because I opened the door, he fell out. And this Lyle Bishman, he sat in there, and I was screaming at him that he had to take his seatbelt off, and I could look inside the flames of him burning to death, and he finally, the seatbelt finally burnt off, I think, because I watched his hands. He was just fighting the fire with his hands, and I was screaming at him to come out. We're here. I'm over here. I'm over here. And when he finally came out, he fell into my arms, and he had compound fractures of both legs. And I don't want to be gross, but he didn't have no face left, no ears, no mouth, no nothing that a human being would want to look at. And he was alive, and it took me 3 weeks before I could sleep at night. To watch that and go over and over, close your eyes at night. And make a long story short, it made tractor pulling safety a real concern of mine. And so we always tried to do everything we did build-wise in our shop that try to make all the safety things
Right.
we can do without things. Because life was pretty short after watching
When you
that.
started, you didn't have any safety gear. I'm sure
No, I can
tractor-
remember with my single cock shot with a blown 454 in it. They made us build seat guards. Like we had just like a garden tractor seat on your tractor. On your modified, you had 6-inch pipes built up so you couldn't slide off. Well, before we had them, they had, in old days, we didn't have a sled organization for rules. The guy that was running the sled would dictate how long the chain would be and how fast he wanted to stop people and how he wanted to stop them. And this guy here had a 60-inch chain. I think we got I'm not right, it's 46 inches now. And of course, when you get light modified with the tires lit and you're out there on a hard, back in the days before they groomed tracks, you go to a county fair, be a racetrack with dust on top, you know, and so you out there, and of course you got one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the throttle, and everything is go forward, and the tractor starts to do the duck swat, you know, and I'm bouncing from one tire to the other tire as I'm standing still, and the tractor is doing this, you know, and then of course you got it. I have a guide on my throttle. I'm hanging on to dear life on the steering wheel and then the throttle. So I finally had to find a way to drop the throttle out of there, when I leave it come back and still hang on, you know. And it finally came to a stop. So there's where we had a meeting, and we required to have seatbelt rails added on, you know, and to keep you in the seat. But then that winter, when we started going to national meetings, because we were always interested in opening my mouth up at a meeting. So I'm not afraid to talk, and something I see out there anyway. Very Ridgeway.
So have you been involved at the WPI level or NTPA board, like from the beginning, or?
Oh yeah, I was pulling before NTPA was NTPA.
But I mean, you've been involved at the executive level on the board.
Yeah.
How long has that? Have you been involved with that?
Oh, since 1977.
So you were in on a lot of rules.
Yeah. Anyway, we took that seat rails deal to the meeting, talking about that, and they just decided that everybody should have fenders in on their tractors, so that we were required to have fenders on besides that seat belt. You try to keep yourself. And then they had all kinds of stuff for your feet to couldn't get ahead of the out from the front of the tires yet, because people would build their fenders like they do now, just to get by with the roll, and their feet would swing out sometimes between their platform and the tire and almost pull somebody off the tractor seat, you know. And we had guys that tipped the tractors over back in the day on the track, you know. That they had them old F-20s, you know, they had a ring for a drawbar, and they would put a clevis on there. Of course, they'd have a chain up to the top of the rear end to hold the drawbar up, and the drawbar would break from the side of the rear end housings, and then they'd be pulling off the thing by the seat, and tip the tractor right over backwards. So it's a lot of incidents like that before I was even, boys were even around yet. But in 1978, we built a 20-engine tractor, and then we had two of the tractors. Being a glutton for punishment, to spend nights fixing stuff because you always break something.
Were we into aluminum engines by this time?
No, it was the
Still
little big
running
block
gas?
Chevrolet stuff. 671, 871s. All blowing alcohol. But my first motor I had custom built by a race car guy in Minneapolis. And of course he was pretty stout. Had 13 to 1s in there. It made power, but it didn't last too long. So about 6 8 rods. She had the rods hanging out the side because that was the rock on field setups. But it didn't take long to fix that. But we were running water and found out you couldn't run water in a blown alcohol motor because the theory you can't pour cold water in a hot motor. Well, 180-degree water is too cold for a cast iron block back in the old days when they had cheap cast iron. You'd go home and you'd find the next morning the oil pan would be full of water and you'd heads off and you'd find the block was cracked. After about 3 pulls like that, busting cylinder walls, I finally got to go down to Minneapolis and talk to a drag racer and we run water for it. So we threw the water away and the rest was history on the water. Basically learned how to build motors and stuff like that. Back when the Atlas Tractor, George Weplow, he was a great guy for helping us small guys. He would build stuff for us. His problem was he would take too many jobs on at the same time. And, you didn't want to shoot the guy or anything. You almost thought you should because he said he wanted it in April. He wanted it in April. He didn't say what year in April. So anyway, he built a lot of tractors for Bill Berg, Brett Berg, and stuff like that. He built stuff that you wouldn't imagine that we got tangled up with him one night. He was building a transmission for me for a 2-motor tractor. Because I knew it was a single automatic, wasn't going to take that for a load in. Went down there to talk to him while picking it up, and this is a month before the first pull of the year, and he says, well, I got bad news for you. He says, I lost my lease for the building I'm in, and my building is about a block from here, and everything is laying on a pile, and I got to be out of here in a month. And so while I went out in the car to talk to my brothers and call them up, and went back in and talked to them, I says, you build my transmission, we'll put your building up. So then we spent the next 2 weeks putting this building up, and my transmission missed by about 2 weeks, but at least I had it for the rest of the summer. But
so in 1978, you got a twin engine
Yeah.
on. What was the next big progression? Going more of the component style.
Yeah,
Obviously, when did the heavier? When did you go from tractor ends to using like a skidder or a truck?
1989, I was going to build a 3-engine tractor. I had a 3-engine on this when I built in '78, but it was
So the
too
cock shot
heavy.
rear end would still take.
It had a 9,000 Ford
The
cast.
cop shot was in the single.
Okay.
Yeah, the cock shot was still in the single. This year, the twin was in a 9,000 Ford rear end, cast iron, so that thing weighed so much you couldn't get 3 motors into the class. Anyway, so then I sat down and looked at building my own rear end, and I went to what's his name, where Chad works, Hillebrand's Manufacturing in Winston. They build everything in the world for everything from gun turrets for the Army to everything, light poles that you see all across the country. Anyway, they could only roll 5/16ths. So that's what I rolled up a drum for my rear ends I build now. And so we built that first tractor with 5/16ths, and we fabricated the rest of the housing with SQHD center sections like they do most of everybody uses today. And with the 9000 Ford Planetaries inward brakes. And then as the lane came along and wanted the rear end, so we built him one, and I built another one, but then we used 3/16ths material. And then we progressed down the line. We started when Randy Rose tipped his tractor over, and NTPA required super stocks and modifieds. They had to be component rear ends, no cast iron. Then I started building rear ends commercially. But then we always progressively testing the waters thinner and thinner and thinner, all those things. And the last two I built, the housing was only 100,000 thick, and because Esden Lane was going to build his light super stock. He runs today with 460. So we built a light that was possible rear end for him, and then I just thought, well, is that going to hold? So I thought, couldn't sleep at night, so I thought, I'll build one for my modified at the same thickness as his. And we'll pull at Ellsworth 2 weeks before the first pull October for him. That way I won't kill the king of smoke. This is all in my head going to sleep at night anyway. So we built a rear end, and I was skeptical, and when I drove it over there at Ellsworth, I should have just got after it, but I was testing the waters, and I was only exhibition driving, and basically the tractor started doing a duck walk and slamming me inside the roll cage. And back then that year we had to have roll cages on already, and this is past the point of where I'm going to say I got knocked out in there, and my hand got caught in the throttle of the roll cage, and so it was on cruise control, keeping it right on going. And finally Steve Johnson, running the sled at the time, pulled the kill switch on me. Otherwise I probably would have been maybe dead, because I was knocked out for 20 minutes. That's a long time to be knocked out of conscious. So
That track has not been nice to you.
no, it wasn't nice at all. Anyway,
Did it the second year after, and same
and
thing
then I
happened.
went to the next year, went back to an exhibition again for some other thing we built inside the tractor, and this time I did the same darn thing. Didn't learn much ever. And I basically went in front of the grandstand before the show really got going, and thanked all the EMTs and the motor and all that stuff, and then I go out and do it again, and get the same ride in the helicopter. They were going to bring it.
I think the second year, they were ready to cut the cage off, because I was there.
Yep.
And
I says,
Doug's like, no.
we ain't doing that.
Anyway, got to go and wake up in the Mersey River Falls about 4. I woke up 20 minutes after I got knocked out, but I don't have no memory of it at all. And when I first got my first memory back, was this happened about 11:15 at night. And the time you get to that into the hospital, then you CAT scan on your head and see if you're bleeding on the brain. And I'm laying there at this board that they strapped me, because they didn't know if I had back problems or not, or spine or injuries or what I had. So I'm still in my fire suit, and I wake up at 4:15. I'm in the emergency room and look around. What the hell am I doing here? You know, and then that was both years, the same thing. You know.
What caused? You figured out what caused that?
Yeah, I didn't get after it. I was just main brake was sticking a little. One of the brakes was sticking a little bit, and caused the tractor. It was not to go straight down the track. And anyway, long story.
Is that the rear end that's in the mod now?
Yeah. And the rear end took it fine, except every gear and the axles were all busted and shot. And the tractor would swing. One would be off the ground about 6 to 8 inches, and then that would spin way up, and then it would duck walk the other way, and then that other tire would be off, and then the shock in there killed the ring and pinion and the planetary, so everything was junk, but the housing, it was just fine. So I was pleased with that part, and over the years I built 42 rear ends, and I got about 6 of them across the pond, and there's numerous rear ends across the nation that got my rear ends in them, but one thing I never did is the serial number on any of them and keep a record of this. One guy would have a 15-inch offset on rims, and the next guy would have 13 inches. And then the guy would pull for 5 or 6 years and retire and sell the frame, and the guy would pull, and then he wanted. The axles do have a tendency of twisting if you don't heat treat it right. Anyway, they twist one of them things off, and then they call you up and say, I want an axle. Well, then you have to start over and figure out how long it was, and if I had a record on all. So I got basically, and then the world got caught up with how many guys are going to pull modifieds, and so there's not that many new ones. There are guys that replace like modern machine now on the left basis. But I really not in the mood to be a builder. I like to pull.
Right.
Always had a good luck.
So 1989, you went to a 3-engine tractor. Is that the current chassis now, or did you?
No, I built that in 89. Yeah, it would be the same tractor I built now. And that was the fall of 89. And 90, in 91 we went to Canada for.
Let's take a stop here. Doc was you were part of the getting this indoor pulling thing started, right?
1982. Yeah, we went to the Metrodome, and United Sports of America called us up. I was the president in Minnesota, and they wanted to put a pull on the Metrodome December 4th, and we had to line up 8 to 10 modified tractors and 8 to 10 four-wheel drives, and we had to get 6 demolition truck cars, and to get the weight transfer, all this stuff, and oh God. It's about 2 weeks before the pull. The promoter calls me up. He says, you realize that the turf doesn't roll up? We have to put down plastic over the whole floor, and a layer of plywood, another layer of plastic, another layer of plywood, another layer of plastic. He's take 11 semi-loads of fiberglass, plywood, and I can't find any. If you can find some plywood, let me know. I'm going to pay $15 to $15.50 a foot of board sheet, or whatever you want to call it. So, just so happened my brother-in-law was in the shop. After we hang up, it must have been 10 minutes. He walks in. My brother-in-law's brother, actually, he's an over-the-road trucker, and he said, we'll just call up the building in Montana and see what we can get. So he gets my phone and he calls them up, and then he says we got 7 loads going to California right now, but 4 hours. You got to make a decision if you want them. The other ones can come next week. He says they're $5.20 a sheet, and I'm looking to my head and I'm saying, $5 $5.15. There's a lot of money involved there, you know. And I say, I could put some change here. So I call them up and tell them that we're going to, one way or another, either the promoter's going to be sending the money or we are. So I go down to my banker and I lay it out to them, and they go in back with two vice presidents of the bank, and they said, well, when they come back, they got to appraise my property. And I said, we got about another hour and a half to make a decision here. You know, then I says to them, maybe you guys want to get into the action, and then we told the whole story, and they went back and had another 10 minutes, and they come back and they didn't want to take the risk. So then I got out in my car and went to the Fullerton lumber store, and they had a accountant with them, and they got to make money off the $4 or $5 a sheet to 15, and they gave me a $5,000 finder fee, and everybody had to be happy. But it was a little thing in life that you see a chance to make it a couple $100,000, and it didn't happen because you just didn't have that much money in your treasury. Anyway, to this date, before the Metrodome died, and whatever they knew when it was built, that plywood stayed there, and every time somebody would use a sheet, they had to pay the Metrodome $1 for using a sheet of plywood. If they used $100, it's $100. Then they got to put them back again when they were done using them. And that's.
Where did they store 11 semi-loads of plywood?
You'd be surprised, but underneath them seats are all rooms underneath there.
Yeah.
It was anyway. Until the Metrodome went down, that United Sports American Group was making 50 cents a sheet rent on them. They didn't. The Metrodome, that they were making 50 cents a sheet.
So how many shows were you involved with at the Dome?
3.
Okay.
So I mean,
and monster trucks kind of took over from there.
well, they decided that in Minneapolis is River City, so it's sand. So when they dig sand out in December, it looks like clay. It's all froze up, and then they sit in there for 3-4 days. Watch beach sand. You can't put a good pull on sand, and it turned out that one did 1994. They built 394 in Minneapolis. The contractor there, he got the bids for bringing the dirt in for a Metrodome show, and he saved this one hill and brought the clay out of there. That was the only show that was decent for actual pulling. If you wanted to clay, you could stop somebody. Always, a lot of times they would just set up stopwatches. Whoever took it out the end the fastest, and then they would have 2 guys come back and pull off, you know. So they did all kinds of stuff to put a show on. But that pull in 1982 will go down in history. They got 16 inches of snow that day. We were down there at 4 in the morning already with our stuff. We had to bring the sled, and we had borrowed the neighbors' tractors for tow-off tractors, so we had to bring 6 tractors down there for tow-off rigs and tow them things back up on it. The Metrodome was like 50 feet in the ground, so you had to bring it up this ramp and with snow out, and the tractors that we brought had a hard time just pulling another tractor up that hill. We got the city to bring some salt down there and pour down that ramp, and looked at it was a long day. Anyway, they had the place holds 67,800, something like that. At 70,000, they shut the doors.
70,000 people at an indoor tractor. I remember going to that.
And anyway, there was 10,000 people outside that couldn't get in because the doors were locked. And then they were coming down the ramp trying to get in, and they had to have guards down there to stop them from coming in that way.
Did you get in on the winter stadium tours, like when they were at the Astrodome and
No, I
that
didn't.
sort of stuff? Or
The only
you
ones
elected to go north?
The only ones we did is that we went to that United Sports of America, the one that put the Metrodome pull on. Once you get a name with somebody, and you do a good job, and you're coming your rigs and your rigs run, they can hire you again. So we went. We were hired in 1991 to go to Canada, to Calgary for Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, and then 300 miles north the next weekend in Edmonton. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon in Calgary. The next weekend, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and then Winnipeg, the same deal. And they paid, IRS ain't listening, they paid,
Well, let's just say 1991, they paid pretty much more than they pay
they
now.
paid $1,800 to win. $1,800 to win. $1,200 was last place. So we brought a 2-wheel drive and my mod tractor down there. And
When did you start the two-wheeler thing?
when they first came out in '86. Anyway,
That was the funny car?
Corvette funny car. We had this guy, same George Bublo. He built the first rear end, and we sort of copied that rear end, and we made a bigger series when we did the rear end. But going to Calgary, when it was winter time, so the average guy from down south didn't like the idea of going north in the winter time because it was 35 below at night, you know. And lucky I had a brother-in-law that trucked. He told me to go to a junkyard and get a Toyota or a Honda motor and mount it on the back of your truck and put a 10-gallon tank back there so it'll run all night. And start up and get your motor warmed up, and you'd be able to, it worked really well. We went 2 years up to Canada that way, and the second year we put a generator behind it. And we didn't have to put the time we got there, that whole month it was that little motor was running because all the 4-wheel drive guys that come up there with their pickups and a trailer, they would diesel pickups, they would come over and plug into my generator and keep their trucks running all warmed up all night because you had to go to breakfast in the morning. The marinas don't have no plug-ins outside any place to plug in, so when you're up north like that, it's a bunch of gypsies going and everybody's helping each other get everything running. And you know, one time we were going from Edmonton to Saskatoon. A friend of mine was with me, and got up in the morning, and the tire was flat on the trailer, and it was 35 below. And I said, went to the truck stop and filled up with diesel fuel number 1. And then while he was filling up that, I talked to him, and they fixed my flat tire. Oh yeah, you bring the whole rig right inside the thing, we'll change it and fix it for you. So we brought, after done filling, we went around and got in the bay and fixed the tire, and went and paid for the tire fixing, but I forgot to pay for the fuel. Honest to God. After we got out of town 10 miles, and I told my buddy, Kerry Wheatrick, hey, we forgot to pay for the fuel. I said, we'll get to the Saskatoon, I got this slip here. We'll call him back and give him a credit card number. So it didn't take 15 minutes. All of a sudden, the red lights were behind us and pulled us over, and they got me for bailing out and paying for fuel. And of course, I was sitting back in the car. He's got Canadian Mounted Police, this thing in here. Out of country, you know, thinking about going to jail, and I told him the story that we had tire fixed, and I just forgot about paying, and I told my buddy here, if we get to Saskatoon, we'll call back and give him our credit card number. And of course, he says, wait, I'm going to go up and talk to your buddy. So he goes up and talks to Kerry Wheatrick, and the same story came out, so everything was fine. The cop took my credit card number, and of course, in the meantime, Kerry Wheatrick, he goes out in the field about 100 yards.
Take some
There was a
pictures.
camera taking pictures of me getting pulled over for bailing out on paying my fuel, you know, and he said he was use that for any bounty I need. Things I need for.
So you started with the two-wheelers in 1986. When did the Pack Rat, the conglomeration of multiple vehicles, start?
Well, that the Pack Rat number 3, that's what we call that Corvette. The Pack Rat number 2 was the one that we built 2 engines in and made it into 3 engine. It was called Pack Rat 2, and the Pack Rat 1 was this Pack Rat, so it started that number system, okay? And the Corvette is basically the wrong chassis to have on a two-wheel drive because the rule book says that wheels had to be in the center, front wheel had to be in the center of the wheel well. Well, they have a funny car body. If you ever look at them, they had, in 1982, they had about 18 inches of nose before the wheel well started. Even if you fiberglass it forward, it looked like crap. Anyway, so we ran that until.
Were the first two-wheelers based off of a funny car?
For us, a lot of guys had trucks.
Yeah.
Regular two-wheel drive trucks, and made it into two-wheel drive blowers, you know. And they just put automatics in them and normal truck frame. We had ours was a wedge frame, just like a lot of guys run today. And then we, 1994, we built the Pack Rat 5, and then because the tractor was Pack Rat. The new one I got today was Pack Rat 4. And then we built the blue one that Tigan drives today. In 1994, we decided.
That was Chad's truck originally.
Yeah, well, Chad was on a drive, and Doug's ex-wife asked. I thought we were running for points. And when Chad was on a drive, you know. Well, then. Decided on 1st of May that if they were going to share driving, like have this argument, I just started building another one for Chad, and it's called Pack Rat 5. So 29 days we had it built from start to finish, but didn't have no fenders on it and no paint. And we went to the first pull in Wisconsin. I can't remember what date it was, but it was around Memorial Day weekend. Of course, that guy said I couldn't pull that vehicle because it didn't have fenders on. At the drivers' meeting, the whole class said if we weren't pulling, they weren't pulling. So I thought I had a lot of respect for the Wisconsin guys there. We went through all that work just because we didn't have fenders on it. They let us pull, and he got 3rd place that night. First time down the track, of course, made him feel pretty good. And that started our.
So Doug, you were driving the funny car?
Yep. And then that was in '94 when Chad came out.
So when did you start? Who's older between?
I am.
Okay.
He's the oldest.
And you started driving when?
83. 1983.
Well, I made one pass with a single engine tractor.
Yeah.
And then we built the Corvette.
No, someplace along the line, you didn't drive, that's right, either 93, 94, someplace in there, 95, and we started building the two-wheel drive for the 96 season.
Yeah.
You were how old then?
He was basically the first
A
time.
little bit young.
Yeah, he might have been 15 or 16.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, my young little boy Wyatt, you know, we probably shouldn't even talk about this, but we were at New Hampton, Iowa, and Robbie Fagundes, he's 15 years old, and just decided on Saturday night,
There's some kids
you're
that-
going to drive the mini rod.
There's some
And we
kids-
strapped him in, and Bryce just shook his head when we got to the starting line, and away he went, you know.
Age is relative. You got
if you're capable,
you're 18. If
Right.
you know some 18-year-olds shouldn't be doing it.
if they ain't into the thing and then they're watching what's going on, they don't know how it's going to react, you know. And basically that's all life is. You have to learn as you go and trust your instincts with your kid. If you think he can drive, Doug was driving our 8N Ford. We had an 8N Ford that we dragged to pulls back in the day before there was tow tractors. Back in the day when the modifieds first came out, they would have the light super stock guys give a free entry fee if they would be a tow tractor after their class was done. Of course, them guys would pull one tractor back to their trailer and then they would load up and go home, you know. Did my duty anyway. So we didn't like that fact that we were last class in the night and then you had to figure out how you get a tractor back to the trailer. So we brought this 8N Ford along when Doug was about 12 or 11, maybe 10.
I think he was more like 7. He could
Anyway,
barely reach the pedals.
he got to be famous with all the rest of the guys in the mod class because he'd pull me back to the trailer and then go off and find somebody else to pull. And he'd do a lot of pull them out, busting a chain or that kind of stuff. So where the guy was how to pull him back to the trailer, where he wanted to go, and without even telling him. So he was well used up in that way. So we knew he could drive tractors when he got to be 15. Anyway, so that was part of the ordeal. Then
When did Kim start driving?
Not until later.
we
Because Chad drove for a while, and then he.
we built
I
another
switched mine from the Corvette to a T-Bucket also.
95. We switched that after 94. We took the Corvette body off and made his into a T-Bucket also. Then we called it Pac Rat 3, Pac Rat 6. And how many years?
2005.
I always
silver
say
one
that
in 2005.
Kim and her husband came to the pulls after they got back in Minnesota where they worked. And she asked me one time when she got to drive. I don't know if she remembers that or not.
When I learned how to drive a stick shift was the original answer when I was 16.
So they're just the 3 kids?
Yep.
Doug, okay. So
They had
daddy's
a-
little girl who got to go driving.
But not
I
till
know
I
how
was,
that
I was
works.
I was 35, and I asked Doug and Chad if I could drive once. That's all I wanted to do was try it, and both of them said no, I'd break it. And so that's when he started building me mine.
So then we built hers, and then we took it to. We pulled it for a year before she got to drive, because she wasn't.
I was pregnant with Dayton.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So then we had him for a year.
Nephew of ours drove it for a year. He's Adam, her mod.
Okay.
He drove it for a year, and then her first attempt at driving, we took it to a test and tune day. And of course, we pulled it there the summer before there, and we always keep records of how many weights you had on the front, what gear you ran in, with air pressure. We're pretty particular on that. You can go to a pull and go back 15 years and
Right.
say what year you ran, and
Here's our average. Let's do
and then
this.
you started out pretty close. Anyway,
I'd never been in the seat.
never been in a seat before, so we said, well, we'll put
Extra weight on
Extra
the front
weight.
end.
we'll make sure the front end stays down. We'll put an extra 100 pounds on the front end.
They told me, whatever you do, don't let off the throttle. Like, okay,
So
back me in.
actually does it just like we did. Back her in, and she takes off. Front end comes off the ground about 3 feet at the 100-foot mark, and it stays there. And
Just kept climbing.
It just kept climbing.
It couldn't get any higher. It was all the way up. You could have walked underneath.
And at 320, she shuts it off.
All the way up.
Spins it
Climbing,
in.
yeah.
Spins it in.
Pins it in, front end comes down nice.
Oh, it did come down nice.
Oh, yeah.
She spun it
Spun it right in,
Spun
yeah.
it in on the other end. Front end drops down, and
Everything was fine. And she says, I thought the front end wasn't supposed to come up.
and you don't realize, she didn't really realize how high the front end was until we showed her video tap afterwards.
Because it's so gradual, you know, you just
Yeah.
start tipping back. You don't even realize that
And
the front end's
as a
up.
two-wheel drive, you sit up front and you go up with it.
Right.
Mod tractor, you see the tractor go up, and there's so many people that start pulling a super stock or a mod tractor or first time, when they see the front end come, your first reaction is let off on the throttle because you get scared about like riding that one arm thing. Anyway, you did it right on the day, did you?
No.
Okay.
He did.
Anyway, that's how our third vehicle started, and then
Then the
everybody said,
grandkids come into play, and we need
well,
more
that
vehicles.
is why we built the fourth one. The fourth one is that, well, the only reason you guys do so good is because you got two T-buckets. Well, that isn't really two reasons. We're just more experienced class, and we've been to these places for years and years and years. And so we built this red one we got now. What is that?
S10.
S10 or Dakota, either one you want to call it. Basically, it's got just as much weight on the front end as the other one's got, but it's just short 200 pounds. Because our other ones are always got 90% of the time we got 200 pounds in the back end. We don't have to. We've never been to the point where we had everything up front.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now this truck, the red one, is always just short that 200 pounds because of the body. But I have a problem with it other than the fact that it's taxing that to have that many vehicles and keep them all running at the same, how you want to call it, pace as everybody else is running, which is the technical problem is we don't like to set them on kill. Because they just cost you money. We have to accept the fact that we're not deep pocket driving as an average Joe. So we're out here having a good time, and then I always say if you keep the kids out of trouble between 15 and 25, they might make it someplace in life. Because you can be out in the wrong place at the wrong time between 15 and 25 and never come home again mentally. So
You've got two grandsons driving currently.
and if they want, if we got other grandkids that don't want to drive, so we don't force the issue. If they want to read a book instead, that's just fine.
Well, that's the great thing about pulling. It was kind of an argument with my almost ex-wife, and it's one of those things you can do as a family.
Well, I there's so many people that come to me after 55 years and say, we enjoy watching you and your own families involved. Well, to me, I like to be able to watch my kids. I was like, I have just as much enjoyment watching my son drive the tractor and I drive it. I don't push the envelope, drive it back. But as soon as my legs get back together,
Kick him out.
then I'll kick him out again. But
You got your back all fixed up. So now
yeah,
you just
my
gotta get your legs fixed.
the doctors say, well, my nerves in my legs got to take time to get back into their own, what they're supposed to do. So, but I don't want to go out there and put the brakes on at the wrong time and just make a fool out of myself. I'd rather just take my time until my body comes back, and then if it never happens, I won't be. I got 55 years of tractor pulling in. I'll speed the money back.
So back to the tractor. So late 90s, you were up to 5-engine tractor.
We had 5 on it at Hutchinson one year, and then of course when NTPA came out with this light unlimited class in 1991, NTPA Puma had a 6,000 pound open class, and of course I got my tractor with 3 motors in that class, and I won the pull. So the record books look at 1991 and so much fame inside that company. We'll find it. And then in 1991 we won run a 6,000 pound open class. So when they said they're going to have a 6,200 pound unlimited, light unlimited class, I didn't say, I'm already in. I just kept my mouth shut and went home and got ready for pulling in the light unlimited class. And maybe the word got out a little bit, but not. I'm always come out with that out of sight, sort of maybe killed the class right away, like coming out that strong. But that's all life is. They decided that they were going to do it.
It did say unlimited pretty much. If it,
yeah, but I mean, everybody can spend as much money as they want in that game. Because I always say, money is the answer. What's the question? But you got to decide how much money you're going to spend, and are you going to spend everything you got in life to win, or are you going to enjoy yourself? I get upset with myself when we screw up and don't do a good job. But we're not going to put the motor on kill to win first place over second. It ain't going to happen. I'd like to go home with the same motor I went with all year. We keep all the parts inside the motor, and it's fine. But if it doesn't, I don't go home and cry. I expect the fact that it could happen to any one of them, break anytime you want to. But over my 55 years of pulling, I only missed 3 pulls that I should have been at.
pretty good.
I mean, back in the day when we chased the regional mod circuit, when there was mods around and 2-wheelers just coming along for something for the kids to drive, that's basically what it was for back then. When they were still in high school, I couldn't take off and go to Sudbury, Canada, or Upper Michigan on a weekday because they were scheduled a pull them days when the kids were in school, you know. So if it was on a Wednesday and we were out at the point race, never the ones who never did the 3 we missed because it was the kids were in school yet. Other than that, we don't usually miss anything. I never sell anybody a used motor because most likely it's got a cracked crankshaft in it. Cylinders will wear out. And besides that, they still run. So they sit in the corner there waiting their turn to go in. Nobody knows that you put a junk one in there for 1 or 2 passes while you can fix it. They wouldn't look back on it.
So what's your most memorable moment for tractor pulling?
Well, I would say back in 1971, when I came into Preston's, they had when you pulled, they had a curtain they opened up for everybody to come in from behind the curtain. And they came in with that twin-engine small block, and the grandstand was on both sides, was packed. And I drove on the track and I had a standing ovation before I even pulled. I mean, to see a twin-engine tractor back in 1971, and for me that was the best feeling in the world. You know, it was one of the first pulls that, so everything was clean, and it was really a sharp tractor that we don't advertise too much stuff. We don't have pictures of our in my office at home. I do, but some of the pictures are so faded out that Ma done put varnish over them, and I don't see them anymore. But she's got it's one thing my wife did all the time. She doesn't fix on motors much, but we got tapes when the tape players, VCRs, VHS. We got cabinets that's full. We go back to pulls way back, and whenever it started with VHSs, they watched the pulls. I remember we were in Metrodome one time, and Dave Walsh was pulling, and he went out the end and sort of went out on an angle, and Sharon was standing about 15 feet off the 300-foot mark or whatever the end was. Of course, the message told me you could have a 300-foot track in there if they really wanted to, but they have a 250.
They have the kitty corner.
Yeah, but anyway, he drove up and stopped about 2 feet from her, and she still had the camera. You know, and somebody tried to pull her out of the way, but she never blinked. You know, I mean,
Didn't even realize it was that
nobody
close to
even
her.
realized it was there. Anyway, so she always, we can go home and study what we did wrong going down the track and see where we had done better. And she always kept us fed.
That's an important job too.
You know, and we were the first ones to have a toter home. In 1989, she got colon cancer. So, when you go, now ever since then, she's got to be within 2 minutes of the bathroom. So, when you go,
Need a bathroom.
we had to build a toter. We built a toter home in a bathroom one morning that she was going with. I don't think she's missed more than 10 pulls in her
Every
career.
time I've ever seen you, she's with.
You know, and she does all the cooking, but she doesn't like to work on the tractor. She doesn't like to drive them. She doesn't like to steer them, but she will if I tell her we need her. You know, so because sometimes we have to move the thing around in my small shop, and the boys are gone working. There's only one person left to steer them. It's quick.
I've tried to convince her to drive mine once, but no. She said no way.
Anyway, the tractor pulling is in my blood, I think. I told the wife when I die, send the tractor with. I'll find a way to get her fixed.
How about for you, Doug? What's your most memorable moment?
I think winning Toma in 2000. What did you say it was? 6?
86.
No, 2006.
2006.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How big was the class?
Had it been
30.
30
had
at
it been
least.
30. Wanted to pull off. So I had to make 2 nice passes.
Both passes, they didn't change the sled because everybody else was going 2. Only 3 guys made it out at the end. And one didn't come back, did he?
Right, it was just 2 of us. And
By
coming back.
2006, the Chevys are not up to snuff. I mean, they have
Well, we always try to
trucky
out-
cutter heavy was
we always
out
try
by
to-
then, right?
This thing, it rained and it rained the night before. The track was muddy. So everybody was going around 280. Okay, and this guy, how you want to say, when it was Doug's turn to pull, it was about 10 from the last. We parked the sled. When they backed the sled up, they had to bring it back ahead because the rule book says the sled has to be in bounds. So the pad was sticking over right 2 inches, and then the track judge, starting when the track judge came over, made him move it over 6 inches, so the track sled was in bounds. So that's how close to the right chalk you were. And of course, as he went down the track, on the tape on the other end, it shows that 6 inches. Our vehicle is only 5 feet wide. His is. And the back wheels were only 6 inches from the chalk, went from a 50-foot all the way out the gate. When we come back in a pull-off, the other guy had to go first. You would think he would move his sled out of the middle. He went 284 feet because the track. Well, he was one of the first guys to pull, and it was dry on top. We made it out the gate. Then as the track got bring up the moisture the night before, it got worse and worse and worse. And nobody was going past much of the 2. You were sure there was always one that got a better shot at it. And they were stopping around 280. So when he was first pulling the pull off, he went 284 or something. And we put the sled right back in that same spot. They didn't change the sled, they took it up. We got friends that said they had their fingers crossed, and this guy from Wisconsin, he always comes up I can still picture Doug and Toma going out to game. He reminds me every time I see him. Driving in, we'll run that. We did the same thing this year at
Dodge City.
Dodge City, Kansas. Everybody was going down the middle.
And you won Dodge City too.
Parked it on the side and put 20 feet on the class. And the next, and Petros came over there. Of course, as soon as the first one is gone,
Everybody's following.
everybody follows, and he got within 20 feet of him. But first he put 29 feet on the class, and Petro came at next hook after Doug and parked it over there. But he parked it 6 feet from the truck. I don't know why. So I said, I'll go straight as ours. Anyway, wow. That was the closest anybody got. He got second place at 20 feet back. You just gotta trust most of our trucks got lockers in them. Have to make people know that. I don't mind telling people that because it's hard to get lockers in or into work.
Right.
Ours comes it's hydraulically in and hydraulically out. So if you want to keep it in, you can on the throttle you can press a button and hold it in. Stay in, otherwise automatically when the throttle's wide open it kicks it out.
Nice.
So you don't have to think. But if you can think then and hold it in, you can just hold the
Did you
button.
come up with that too?
Yeah.
Just like your puzzle all there. That was pretty interesting to watch too. Your puzzle of putting all the trucks in to get the tractor all in. I mean,
Well,
you
that's the
built
same
all
reason
that.
we just drove one of the rigs in a trailer and took a cardboard and sort of drew it out and then we knew how tall they were and raised it up. Yeah, we can do it here, we can put this back. What? How do you get it figured out? And the next one, after you get one in there, you move that cardboard back and
Right.
you know.
So for you, Kim, I'm gonna guess it's either having your kids driving or your Grand National win.
I had a Grand National win and a third at Toma. I'm like made the pull off. So that was good. That was pretty good to get it at Toma, you know, just even to get in the top 3.
Right.
It was cool to get the win out at Hagerstown, but that was a pretty rough track for everybody, so.
I always say you can have the best vehicle on the best track and still get last. If you don't, I've learned a lot of things over the years pulling that if you're a puller and happen to get somebody that brakes at the 200-foot mark, guess what? The next vehicle is going to get a double pack from the 200-foot mark to the 300-foot mark where you need it. Okay? And if you could happen to be there at that time, it's always good for 10 feet. And
We had an experience this summer where were we the night that we broke after Rockwell?
Can't think of it now. Was it
Gibbon, Nebraska, and everybody stopped at one spot. And the 141 got a hold of where the rollers turned around all night long, about 400 some feet. It was a fluke thing.
I complain to being on the board of directors that it takes too much stuff out of the rule book without everybody on it. You know, back in the old days, in the 1990s and the 80s, they had operational contests. And it would tell you in the rule book that the packer was supposed to start following the sled down the track where he was and go around the sled when he backs up. And then go to the end, turn around, and if the sled has moved over to the left, he's supposed to come back on that spot and pack that and blade that. They don't do that anymore. Now they still come back and try and fix up
Previous pass.
And sometimes, you know, we use that to our advantage nowadays. Nobody had at Dodge City, after Doug went out the gate, 8 more trucks went on that left side.
Switch
We
sides.
put Tigan all the way back on the right side because nobody ran there for 8, and the sun was out. It was the afternoon pull.
Yeah.
What did you get? Fourth place. You know,
Cool.
same
Is that
deal.
your memorable moment so far?
Yeah,
How
I
long
mean-
have you been driving now? Is this your
Two-
second season?
Yeah, second season. I got a third my first time. That felt pretty good. Haven't done two. I got a second at Menominee this year. That was probably as good as I've done. I'm hoping to pick up a first too.
Not this year anymore. You're done now.
It'll happen.
Next year.
He's what do you want to say, the next mechanic in our family. He's right there. You don't usually have to, when you break on the track or if something goes wrong, he's got the tool before you need it. He's usually right there. He's got the head in the game. He's got the head of the game. That's the important part. You always learn, and every day you learn.
Makes it easier to keep going if you can fix your own stuff.
Boy, I enjoy more than that. We build our two-wheelers, we build our own transmissions now. And of course, the first series were the shit. They broke. And then you call up. I have no problem calling up, finding an engineer at a company like Rockwell and talk tractor pulling for 5 minutes first. And then everybody that works for these big companies, and you can get if you finally get an engineer on the phone with you and start talking tractor pulling, and then he's talking motorhead again, and then you work into what you want, what your question is. He's really apt to tell you what the scoop is and all that. And that's how I started building my own transmissions. They advised me how to upgrade them to make them hold this around and that around, and the bearings. When you put it in gear, that the gear should be by the bearing, not in the middle, because the shaft will bend. You gotta have the gears in close by the bearing when you put it in gear, because the shaft can't bend it.
Yeah.
And then, so that's why our two-wheel drives are so low to the ground, or I build my own transmissions. It isn't a straight line to the pinion, it jumps up 6 inches. The motor is actually 6 inches lower than the pinion. Some guys that got T-buckets are riding above the framing, their drive shafts in the way. Ours is basically on the ground, you know. And the balance of system over the line when the chain is going, whatever weights on this underneath that line from the chain, the more you can keep it, the more it holds the front end down. Long story.
Well, we thank you for taking time.
Yeah,
And,
appreciate that.
always good stories.
I could talk more stories, but
Be on next year. We can have a part 2. There's
Yeah,
nothing
part
wrong
two.
with that.
there's a lot more stories on going to pools that I can tell. This is another really interesting one. Back in the day, we were in Wisconsin pulling.
We're running out of battery too, so.
I'll make it quick.
Okay.
We had a 48-foot flatbed trailer, semi, older one, and the pool rained out, and we had a pool the next day, and the pool ran left in that town, invited everybody out to his place for a party afterward. The pool got rained out about 6 o'clock, so we're going out, following everybody in a train, and we had a semi, and we got behind this grandpa and grandma, and they were doing 45. And we couldn't, there was cars coming the other way, so we couldn't pass them. And we were going up this big mountain hill by southern Wisconsin, so you know what it's like over there. Finally, got to get to the top of the hill, and I can see about 4 miles ahead all these cars, and so that's where we're at. And we're going down this hill, and all of a sudden the sign says 15 miles an hour to the right, we're doing about 60. And how much it wasn't a quarter mile, you know. And of course, I thought we had to lunch pail handed to us. But when we got to the corner, I think we downspeeded the truck 2 speeds and then turned the steering wheel, pulled the Johnny bar, and put the foot feet to the floor. How I thought about doing that, the trailer slid. The next day we went home and we see all the bars. The trailer slid and we were going that way. And it was about a 90-foot block.
I would try it.
Poured in. We would have went straight over. That's amazing to me that I could do that. And never did practice it, just did it. Downshifted twice. And I mean,
You
went
could
down
feel
2
it.
gears and nailed it. And then pulled it Johnny bar to slide the trailer, and everybody stayed on board, and we were still going.
You didn't roll your brother-in-law off that time.
Yeah, I wasn't sleeping there.
Yeah, thanks for all the info. Hopefully it comes out nice. For somebody that's thinking about tractor pulling doesn't put it in the back burner, there's always a way to get into it.
All right. Thank you, everybody.